Okay. Anyone else? Any other responses? That'll be great. Yes, Om Krishna, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes. So I'm an NRI. I'm living in Singapore right now, and I plan on applying. I have applied to Ashoka University for the humanities course, and I would just like to hear from the faculty like how they plan to teach international relations, which I plan to take as a minor in my yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any other responses? Sheetal, please go ahead.
Hi, so I'm a parent. My daughter has just started her 10th grade, 2025. And you hear about it, international relations. It sounds very fascinating, but honestly, I haven't really found anywhere to understand what it truly is to be able to figure out whether, I can tell her that she can pursue this. So it's, as a parent, I'd really like to know.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sheetal. Anyone else, please feel free to raise your hand as well. Okay. Great. So thanks so much for these responses. I'm sure they're great responses, and we would really love to answer all of the queries you've shared and the objective that you've shared for today about joining in. So next segment of our session, which is the main segment, is that we're going to dive into a fireside chat with our experts. So welcome, Professor Sudeepta. Thanks for joining in today. Quickly introducing our professors. Professor Sudipta is the HOD and the faculty at Virginia Tech University, and he's also been an ex-faculty at Ashoka University. He's an author of a book called Economics of Small Things, and of course, the book created a lot of buzz in the market. He's also a TEDx speaker, and he's been the PhD. He's been done a PhD in economics at Virginia Tech itself, as well as he's been a faculty at the Louisiana State University. And he will be conducting the course on strategic decisions and game theory in our Horizons Achievers program during summer in 2025. Summer. So thanks so much. Welcome, Professor Sudipta. Anything you would like to add to your introduction, please, and anything you would like to state to our participants, please feel free to come in.
So, well, it's evening for all of you, so good to see all of you. It's fairly early in the morning. It's about 8:10. It's a very cold day, -2. So I actually decided to do this in the office. So I'm in my office with a cup of coffee, looking forward to having a fireside chat with all of you. I've been in the US probably since before most of the students, not probably, for sure before most of the students here were born. So I came here in '94. I did my PhD. I've been at Louisiana State University. I've been at the National Science Foundation. And now I'm here. My areas of research are game theory, networks, and of course, I'm always interested in development economics. It's a good session today, I think, because there is nice overlap between what Ananya does, international relations, and game theory. And I'm looking forward to chatting with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor, and a very, very warm welcome to you. And of course, we have Professor Ananya, who's also a faculty at Ashoka University and a very special faculty in international relations. She is an author in the making, so Professor Ananya, please feel free to talk about your work as well. And has been a writer at the Oxford Handbook. She's done a PhD in international relations at Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and she will be teaching the course on the future of war at the Horizons Achievers Program 2025. So a very warm welcome to you, Professor Ananya. Please feel free to come in and talk to our participants and talk about your work.
Thanks, Aditi, for that very kind introduction. Hello, everybody. I can't see everybody because we've been pinned, but thank you for making the time to joining in. I've received a couple of questions, so maybe at some point I'll be able to answer all of them. I teach international relations at Ashoka, particularly critical IR. My research interests are looking at the development of knowledge from Global South, but also popular culture in IR. So I do a lot of critical IR work, and hopefully I can answer some of the questions that the parents and the students have about international politics. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Anya. Very warm welcome to you as well. And of course, I'm very excited to dive into the next segment of our session today. It is going to be a fireside chat with the professors. I'm going to be asking them some very exciting questions. And I hope that I'm able to include all of the queries that you have also raised in your motivation to join in today. How we will do this is, professors, I'll be asking you questions one by one, and I'll be calling you out, and then you can sort of tell me your response as we go ahead with it. Great. So I think we'll begin with Professor Ananya. Professor Ananya, I think I have read about your work, and it's very inspiring. And I think it's always exciting to understand, why when somebody is at their career at a certain stage, why did they begin with it? Why did they choose it initially as well, right? So I think really trying to understand why did you choose international relations specifically, or what was your motivation to get into it?
Thanks, Aditi. A caveat, I think our generation didn't have many options like the kids today. So I'm actually a political science kind of major, and I did my honors in political science from Lady Shri Ram College, and I moved to international politics at a very later stage in life, PhD. But the larger motivation was to kind of understand global relations, not from a micro but a macro perspective. And as a couple of parents and students were asking, there's so much more because international relations lies at the intersection of so many disciplines that if you minor in IR, you will be able to kind of make cross connections across economics, political science, history, but also some people in the CS now, computer science kids do a lot of kind of international relations, and they're doing their thing, but they're also thinking about cybersecurity and kind of emerging threats in a certain way, some things that we cover in IR. Yeah, so my motivation was to understand interstate relations, but clearly IR has moved way beyond that. And maybe for these kids, there's way more kind of potential to expand the idea of international relations in whatever way they want to. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Professor Ananya. And I think the same question goes to Professor Sudipta. Professor Sudipta, Professor Ananya also talked about how international relations links with economics, and we'll get to that in a bit because that's very exciting to know that how game theory can be applied to anything which is where there is a dilemma, right? Like whether it's a global strategy, or it's climate change, or it's even picking whether I should eat burger or pizza today. So I think what was your motivation to specifically, I think, choose game theory within the larger sort of umbrella of economics as well?
So I think if you ask me for one single reason, let me start with the single most reason, and then I'll talk more broadly. I think it's having great teachers. Okay. So I did my master's from Delhi School of Economics. And then we had game theory with Kaushik Basu, Professor Badal Mukherjee, and V. Bhaskar. I mean, they're great teachers. Okay. And once you have great teachers, you're hooked. So that's really why I got interested in game theory. And I've always liked sort of math, logical thinking, analytical thinking. So I was naturally drawn towards more sort of analytical, mathematical side. But getting into economics was more broad. I did economics in high school. And then my generation, as Ananya said, options in India, I think parents would just push you towards engineering or medicine. So I fought with my parents. I'm going to say this, even though parents are listening. And I opted to do economics. I was probably the first kid in my town who did science and then switched to economics. And several other people did that after me, but I was probably the first one. And then I had no intentions of doing a PhD and becoming a professor. I first did the undergraduate degree, which I liked a lot. I did that in Kirodimal College back then. And then I went to Delhi School. And in Delhi School, I realized I wanted to do this more. So I came here to do a PhD. I spent a year at the IMF. I finished my PhD in 2000, and then I've just been a professor since then. And it's great because one of the things that economics does, it teaches you how to think about human behavior. I mean, there's psychology which teaches you about human behavior. That's about process. Economics teaches you about how the individual makes decisions and how the economy as a whole, when I put everything together, how decisions are made, right? And this is never going to change because as long as we live, technology is evolving, culture is evolving, all kinds of things around us are evolving, but we still have to make decisions. So, and game theory is very specifically, I'll talk more in detail about how game theory is different from other types of decision making. I will get into that later, but yeah, that's kind of.
Sure, and I think what's very exciting is that both of you actually shared when you spoke about your motivation to get into this field. Both of you have actually even shared about how this is so relevant for high schoolers, like how when they enter the workforce, how economics is always going to be there, economical challenges are always going to be there, policies are also always going to be there. And Professor, you also spoke about how so many computer science kids, let's say, are choosing IR and they're marrying the two, and there are so many other interdisciplinary fields that are entering into the umbrella of international relations. So that brings me to my next question, actually, Professor Ananya, and that's more to you. To understand that, why do you think like a high schooler should actually learn specifically about international relations, or why do you think this field is actually exciting for a high schooler who will enter the workforce, let's say 5 years or 6 years or even 7 years later? What's your 2 cents on that?
Thanks, Aditi. I think to get an early head start in terms of planning where they want to go in life, right? Like, so whether it is to understand economic implications, right? Like, why do states use sanctions as coercive, like kind of foreign policy techniques? Yeah, like that's economics. But foreign policy implications is something that only IR will be able to like kind of help you navigate and understand. Or when you're thinking about the nature of war, as we're going to like kind of talk about it. And again, the rise of like kind of technology and AI and the kind of cyber and chip wars that are happening between like two geopolitical giants, China and USA, you need to like kind of know some basic concepts before you kind of go on and like kind of develop that in terms of making future choices. But I think the less talked about issues, because I feel like war is so central to all of us, is also diplomacy and international law, right? I'm sure a lot of young students are interested in thinking about like making international relations more about building bridges. And therefore, in order to like kind of make career paths and choices in those things, maybe you need to like kind of reflect on the building blocks before you make those choices. Yeah.
Great, and thanks so much. And I think that also helps us to hopefully that every human on this planet is striving for world peace. And I think so. I hope every high schooler cares about striving for world peace, so that when they enter these domains, we try to achieve that. And I think, and that probably contradicts game theory, Professor Sudhita. So I think my question to you is to understand that, right? Why do you think, I think high schoolers should sort of even be interested in game theory, or how do you think the whole dynamic of game theory might change when they enter the workforce? I think more to that.
So I think everybody should be interested in game theory. Let me just put it wide. So there is a class of problems that we would call individual decision-making problems. So just to go back to something you referred to earlier, whether I want to have pizza or burger, that's my decision. Okay. How am I going to share that piece of cake with my brother or sister? We are now in the realm of game theory. Okay. Cola wars, Pepsi versus Coke, pricing strategies, Cold War, right? So let's just think of a Cold War because it's a very relevant example. What happened during the Cold War? Countries were just stockpiling nuclear weapons, which most likely they would never use. And this makes absolutely makes no sense. But if you think about it, what game theory tells you is the following. Suppose USSR is stockpiling nuclear weapons. What should the United States do? Well, they should stockpile nuclear weapons. Suppose USSR is not stockpiling nuclear weapons. What should the United States do? To become a superpower, they should stockpile nuclear weapons. Now, if you imagine that both countries are smart and they can figure this out, what's going to happen? They're just going to keep building nuclear weapons they're never going to use. Okay? This is a very simple form of a game, which we call prisoner's dilemma. But game theory is there, if you want to play tic-tac-toe. What's the optimal strategy in tic-tac-toe? What should you play when you're playing rock, paper, scissors? Okay. What's interesting is rock, paper, scissors is a simple game, but you can think of rock, paper, scissors applying to penalty shootouts in soccer. Okay, so if you're playing football, you can think of rock, paper, scissors as the application between the person that's kicking the goal and the goalkeeper. Okay. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that whether you're in a firm, whether you're not in a firm, anywhere, any situation where the final outcome depends not just on what you do, but also on the actions of others, whether it's international relations, climate change, or you want to read Chanakya, you want to read Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, you find strands of game theory running through all of these.
Sorry, I was on unmute and I think I'm just trying to understand that, there are so many strategies that are there in game theory, right? But sometimes I try to question that, when I enter the workforce, let's say, how can I go into the application of it? Go into what kind of careers? Like today, if I'm interested in game theory and I'm in high school, what kind of careers should I actually specifically pursue, to get an edge? Or what kind of applications can actually help me to probably create impact in the world? And I think, Professor Siddhartha, just an extension of what you said, and just an extension question on that.
Right. So, as I said, first, this is a skill you should have anyway. Whether you're going to do economics or international relations, I think the key thing is being able to place yourself in the other person's shoes, think how they're going to reason, and then what should you do given how they're going to reason, right? And of course, this actually, formally speaking, this is an infinite chain of reasoning, and you have to figure out the best thing you have to do in this infinite chain of reasoning, right? Because the other person is smart, they're going to figure out, they're also going to be putting themselves in your shoes and thinking, okay, what is that person going to do if I do this, right? So that's basically why I think it's a good life skill to have. Whether you're negotiating with your parents, or with your siblings, or with your peers, or with your colleagues, it's important. So specifically, what kind of careers? Of course, I mean, there's econ, you can always do. You can also use it in areas like, I would say, political science, of course, I mentioned. Game theory is used in evolutionary biology, where strategies are not chosen, but species are born with strategies, and then they compete with each other. Okay. You can think about game theory, of course, it's become very popular in computer science recently. There's something called algorithmic game theory, voting models. Okay. There is political science, intersection with computer science. There's computational social choice. How does society make decisions? So trying to put all these ideas together. And there's something I work on, which is networks, right? So, we live in an interlinked global world. How do networks form? How do people make decisions on networks? So again, there is intersections with computer science, there's intersection with political science. People in history use game theory, right? So for example, there's a very famous paper about how contract law developed. Contract law developed because when shipping became uncertain, right, then relying on personal relationships. So when trade became longer and longer, then relying on personal relationships is not good enough for shipping. Okay, then you have to have contracts. So game theory has, that's a historical application. It shows how Genoa became more important than the Maghrebi Jews, okay, because Genoa came up with the idea of contract law. Okay. So you can think of careers in just about anything, because ultimately decisions are interlinked. Okay. I'm not sure chemical engineering is something you can do if you do game theory, but pretty much broad domain social science and computer science, biology.
Sure. And I think, Professor, you really pointed out a very key point that I just want to highlight for our audience today, is that how game theory is actually a skill. It is a skill no matter what sort of, at least major careers that you enter in where you have to make a decision. I think today all our jobs require us to make a decision. I think how that as a skill can actually help any high schooler, no matter what sort of they go ahead with and what kind of fields they enter. And of course, some fields that have higher application, or some fields that require them to use this more and more, like something like negotiation. So somebody who's negotiating in the financial hub sitting in New York also might be using this on a daily basis, right? So I think that really highlights the significance, I think, of this subject and this field. And I think, Professor Ananya, I would like to know your take on international relations, and also some of the specific future career options that you think are available to students who are interested in international relations. Well, some of the organizations also, I think, that students should look out for if they are interested in the field.
Thanks. Yeah, so just like building on three tangents. So I'm sure a lot of students and parents are like thinking about like the future, right? Like, because I'm sure the conventional paths still remain. And so one of the things I did before like the session was going to start, we're building an alumni database for the department. And it's still in like kind of early stages because it's a younger department. It's only been 5 years since we've been keeping track of these students. So the three things I could think of that like, yeah, students who graduated say 3 years ago are like now pursuing after their masters, etc. So three like kind of tangents came up. The first one was to look at international organizations, and of course everybody thinks about this in the conventional sense, but two like organizations that stood out to me was, one was FAO, which is the Food and Agricultural Organization, and the other was UNEP, which is the United Nations Environmental Financial like kind of program initiative. Yeah, and so kids are very interested in climate change and policy and reflecting on climate policy, and also kids are interested in like kind of social indexes, right? Like hunger and like, so therefore they've like worked their way into these organizations. The second thing particularly that has stood out and has emerged in the recent like kind of decade or so is risk analysis, right? Like, so I think Professor Sudipta was also mentioning about this. And so a lot about like kind of thinking about predictive models and to think about like what is the like kind of nature of conflict here, like how are these parties going to interact in some ways. And a lot of students are now like kind of pursuing that like kind of career in the last like kind of 5 years that I've seen. And the third like kind of career option for students, of course, a lot of these students go on to like kind of do internships with a lot of like kind of think tank organizations. So whether it's Carnegie India or Carnegie Abroad, Stimson Center, yeah, like Georgetown has its own like kind of internship programs. MEA India has internships. So a lot of these students actually develop like kind of their skills in terms of what like kind of career want to pursue through like kind of interning with these think tank like kind of workplace organizations. And lastly, a lot of students have actually like kind of gone into and done a double like kind of masters or a dual masters in international relations and either development or international relations and media studies. And so media also becomes extremely important. We have a lot of students working in the print. And so like all of them like developed a specialization in terms of what they wanted to like kind of look at within the global like kind of overarching umbrella. And now they're like kind of, yeah, like good journalists in the making in these organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is super, super helpful because today we have some parents, and parents are always, they are reaching out to us and they're asking us, but what about internships? Can my child do an internship here or there, right? And I think the real world experience is something students are looking for more and more in today's time. And thanks so much for highlighting that. And I hope I framed my question right to get those organizations, yeah, informed to students. And I think next, I think now I would really like to know about, the courses that you're doing. And, I am very excited because if I was a mother of a high schooler, I would enroll them in all the courses. So I would want to actually understand a bit about the courses now. And I think Professor Sudipta, I'll begin with you because the course is titled Strategic Decisions and Game Theory, right? So, if you could tell me, let's say, what excites you the most to teach this course, and what is that special feature that students should definitely look out for, when they enroll, and like, what is the experience that they should look forward to? I think that's something I would want to understand from you.
Well, okay, thank you. So I want to go back to something you mentioned, right? Hands-on. So one of the things I want the students to take away from this is to think about how they can use these principles in everyday life, right? So, so you can think of game theory as having games where people move simultaneously, rock, paper, scissors, right? Both players have to take their actions at the same time. Or we can think of games where people move sequentially, okay? So you make a move, then the other person makes a move, then you make a move, chess, tic-tac-toe, right? So in fact, we would probably want to start talking about optimal strategy in tic-tac-toe. I don't know how many, if everyone here knows what the optimal strategy for tic-tac-toe is and why it is the optimal strategy. Or rock, paper, scissors. What's the optimal strategy for rock, paper, scissors and why they apply, right? I mean, the way I want to build this course is thinking of applications. Take colorism, for example, okay? Why we want to think of colorism as something that game theory tells us is a very difficult problem to beat. Okay? Suppose the cosmetics industry has persuaded you to use Fair and Lovely or Glow and Lovely or whatever those kinds of products are, skin bleaching products. So if you think that you're better off using that, then you will, even if the others are using it, or even if they're not. So if they are using it, you will use it. If they're not using it, you will use it. But then everybody is as smart as you. And unfortunately, it's very hard to fight colorism. Okay. So I want people to be able to think about these kinds of ideas when they leave the course. So suppose we have to divide a cake between two people. How do we ensure fair division? Well, we ask person one to cut the cake and person two to make the choice. That means person one is never going to cut the cake in unequal halves, unless, of course, they want to eat less cake, right? So then person two sees a cake equally split in halves, they will pick the bigger half. So my goal in this course will be to talk about ideas and their applications in everyday life to ensure that people can see what's the best thing to do. So suppose, for example, suppose you are an ice cream seller on a beach. Where do you locate? You would like to locate in the middle, because then if everybody has to travel to you, that's probably the best point. Because if you locate in one of the extreme edges of the beach, then people near that edge are happy. They can come to you. But then people on the other edge of the bridge, of the beach, have to walk a long distance, right? So you want to be in the middle, so you're equidistant to the largest market share. This is actually an analogy for product differentiation. So if you are introducing a product that can be sweet, if you're the only seller, then you want to have mid-level sweetness. But if there's competition, there's another firm that enters the market. Where do you want to locate? Either extreme ends of the beach or in the middle. So these are the kinds of questions we can think about.
Sure, and I think that gives like a lot of insight into what the course is going to be about and what kind of experience the students will actually get to then think about the applications of game theory and how they can take that forward. And I think, Professor Ananya, now the same question goes to you. You know, what excites you the most to teach this course on the future of war? Because it is futuristic in its whole sense. So, what is the future of war about? And I think what excites you the most about it?
Uh, uh, Thank you. I think to put context into this, I think when we were pursuing whatever, like our masters or like thinking about international relations, I think a lot of focus happens to be on the past. And of course, like there's analogies in terms of like thinking about war. We do the First World War, Second World War, Cold War. But I think that's in the past. I think what this generation needs to be equipped with is to think about a world where we actively like thinking about regional wars in one part of the world or the other. There's also a lot of compassion fatigue, right? Like because of constant presence of Instagram and TikTokification of war in some ways. You're just like, yeah, like IDF uses it quite like, yeah, like the Israeli Defense Forces. They're just like, war is good because they'll sell you these like kind of small clips of female soldiers dressed in a certain way and they'll like kind of create a certain propaganda around war. So I feel like for this generation to engage in war, they need to think futuristically about two things very broadly. One is to think about the rise of technology. And so we look at drones and autonomous weapons and how they've shaped whether it was Armenia, Azerbaijan, like kind of conflict in 2020, or what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, particularly asymmetrical warfare, right? Like, so you have the Israeli Harap, the Turkish Bayraktar, like smaller countries, non-Western countries are developing drones at fraction of a price at what US was doing with MQ Reaper or like other kinds of drones. And that would be so fascinating to understand not just wars, but also stability in international relations. And so that's like a major chunk of what we like kind of cover, autonomous weapons and drones. I think the first week we like kind of look at it. And the second week we look at like kind of cybersecurity and cyber threats. Again, problem of attribution, problem of ambiguity. How do you know these are threats? What is proportional response? And we look at like various vulnerable infrastructures across. Yeah? So the Dakota access pipeline, like kind of case that happened in the US. So you have the geopolitically strongest country in the world vulnerable because the world is interconnected in ways that you wouldn't realize. Also look at non-state actors like anonymous, right? Like hacktivism. So how social movements are playing out in the cyber realm, and why is it so important for us to like kind of put our gaze in terms of understanding? Yeah, like I don't know if people know this, but a lot of what was happening in Myanmar was propagated through Facebook, right? Like, so understanding the digital nature of both mobilization, but also how it plays out in real life. So those two aspects are like the majority of what we do in terms of understanding the tech side of war in the course. That is exciting. And the second is more human side of war or non-conventional security threats. So we both look at environment and like kind of like pandemics and trying to health and like kind of see like how are these like kind of tied into our ideas of security in some ways. Yeah. And so like those are the 4 weeks that we like kind of cover broadly. Thank you.
Oh, I think thank you so much. And I think while you have given us an overview, and I know Professor Sudipta, you also answered, I think, the what the goal of the course is. And I think the core outcome that students are going to get is about understanding the day-to-day games also, the strategies also, and also the applications of it and how that give you a larger perspective. So I think while you've summarized that very well, I think Professor Ananya, anything you would like to sort of summarize the about the course to say that this is the core outcome that students will get. You know, if I had to ask you, what is that one core outcome that you think students will get from the course of Future of War?
To think about war more actively rather than passively, right? Like I think all of us are just consuming like what is happening, but to like think about the rationale, like kind of the mechanics, and but also outcomes, right? Like I'm sure my student who's going to speak in some time will speak about transitional justice mechanisms and like what happens after wars, right? So it'll be important to like kind of think about war holistically rather than just like these top players doing something. So conceptual clarity in terms of who are the players involved. The rise of private military is actually one of the weeks we look at Wagner Group as a case study and try and understand both child soldiers and private militaries and what do they do to like again think about state monopoly over use of violence and rise of newer actors. Yeah. So think about war, but also conceptual clarity. A lot of the course is about clearing your bases. I think some student are very like kind of insightfully asked in the beginning, where do I start? I think you start with like kind of building your base through the concepts. So as much as we focus on real world, we want to like kind of ensure that your concepts about like understanding what is the definition of war itself, right? Like how do you think about interstate versus intrastate conflict? Those are the kinds of things that we cover in the course, yeah, and hopefully students can benefit from it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Professor. This is the point where I end my fireside chat segment with you. It has been a lot of fun and it has been very insightful for me to understand. I think a lot of length and breadth of information shared in this chat today. And I think, as Professor Ananya pointed out, I would actually like to invite Avani Sudhir here, who's here today to sort of share her work at Ashoka. And Avani, I hope you're able to unmute yourself and uh, you're able to talk, right?
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. So, Avni, I think thanks so much for coming in. Avni has been a student at Ashoka University, and we would love to for her to sort of share her experience at the university, as well as I think talk about her specifically her work in IR and how what has been her motivation to pursue that work. So, I think Avni, if you could, sort of talk about it a little bit, it'll be super helpful.
Yeah, of course. So, hi everybody. I'm Avni Sudhir. I'm a fourth year at Ashoka doing my ASP program right now. I graduated in my undergrad with History and International Relations. Right now, I'm doing my thesis in International Relations with Professor Sharma as my advisor, and also completing my minor in Media Studies. So, if you'd like me to start off with just talking about how I came to studying IR, I think I came into Ashoka with the idea of wanting to do history. when I looked at the options in the catalog about the kind of combinations I could go about, I was really glad to see that there was a history and IR interdisciplinary major option out there. And I did want to do something that was more contemporary, but also rooted in history. And I think IR is just exactly that for me, talking about the present with linkages to the past, learning from the past, and looking for a way to move forward. So that's probably why I decided to end up doing history and international relations together.
Great, thanks so much, Avni. Super helpful to understand how some interdisciplinary subjects are inspiring you, and that actually even brings me to share about the Horizons Achievers program, and how that's going to be. I hope everyone's able to see my screen. Uh,
Yes, it's visible.
yeah, sure. Thanks, Yashasvi, for sharing that. I'll just go ahead and reshare it. So that brings me to actually talk about the Horizons Achievers program and what this program is about, why this program is actually unique. So we are going to focus on small cohorts. You will have a small peer group, I think, around 25 people, and all 25 students will get chances to collaborate with each other, to talk to get mentorship and to sort of have a very immersive learning experience. And of course, you've met our faculty. They are fantastic. They have been at global levels and they've been reteaching at global levels. So, taught by, of course, a lot of leading global faculty and industry experts. And I think this is my favorite, the capstone project. You actually get to build something, you actually get to work on something very, very hands on. You actually even get the opportunity to then take that project and show it to the world, sort of to say that this is what I did out of this program. So I think I always look for some tangible outcomes, and this is something that you're going to get out of it. And you can see some of our industry standards and ratings on the screen as well. And one of the things I would also like to highlight for the students and parents present today is that the top students will also get an opportunity to get selected for extended opportunities. They could be around internships, they could be around research opportunities. Of course, mentorships is something that they are going to get with the teaching fellows and the mentors as well. Um, and as well as I think simulations. I think something that you can do you can practice on a daily basis is something that they will also get out of this course. So very excited to sort of bring this to your sort of screens in summer. And you can also have a look at our catalog. We do have other courses as well under the program. We have 15 courses, and there are so many different topics for all the for whether the student is pursuing commerce, science, or humanities. It does not matter, because or it is very interdisciplinary in nature, and students can choose from all of these courses. Of course, the dates remain the same for all, so students will have to use some game theory to pick and choose as well. So, requesting parents and of course students to please go to our website and check out the course catalog also and register as soon as possible. Um, and I think next segment really is for us to understand how your experience has been before we open it up for Q&A. So I think please do. I hope everyone's able to access chat now. Please do say hi. Please tell us if you have any questions. We're opening it up for Q&A. If you have any questions that we haven't covered from the faculty, they are here. So please let us know if you have any questions in chat, or unmute yourself and let us know if we can answer any queries for you. Rajshri, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I did apply for the brain bomb challenge for the course Future of War, right? But I did want to clear about one thing, that as Professor Sharma said, would we be clearing the basis of international relations, or is it a bit like further studies in it? Like you should have a base beforehand.
Thanks, Rajeshri. I think the idea is because these are high school students, and I want to ensure a level playing field. Somebody said they were from a CBSE school at the beginning of the course, and somebody said they were from Singapore, they were not. So the idea is to bring everybody on the same, like, kind of field in terms of understanding the future, right? Like, so we spend the first 40 minutes building concepts and like kind of clarifying what we're going to study in terms of the future. And then we like kind of introduce contemporary like kind of examples to think about war. So please do not worry about it. If you want to know like terms like what does lethality mean, what is like kind of, yeah, like what is an autonomous weapon in the first place, we will clear all your basic definitions before we kind of move on and build it in terms of understanding the contemporary use of those technologies. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we are pausing for any questions. Please feel, yeah, Puri, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm a parent, and this course, was sounded quite interesting. And my son is in grade 10th right now, so I wanted to know the dates because I read for the course and the time that they would. I read that it is an 18-hour course, but specifically how much time over the weekend.
Sure, I can take that question.
Yes.
Right. So the dates are 17th May to 14th June. And in that window, it will be Saturday and Sunday, every Saturday and Sunday. The first 4 Saturdays and Sundays, it will be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, so on
Okay.
4 weekends, it will be 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So
Right.
it will be total of 4 hours on the weekend, right? And then the fifth weekend is our mentoring and counseling weekend, where it will be 2 hours.
Okay.
So
So.
that's the schedule. And of course, you can also have a look at it on the website as well.
Right. So, as I mentioned that he's in 10th grade, his boards will be going on in the month of May and June. And, I remember last year also coming across this, having seen this course. But since the IGCSE students will always have their exams in the month of May, uh, this is also a similar problem that I'm facing for their summer work, physical workshop at Ashoka, which comes in the first week of June, and their exams don't get over till the second week June.
Sure, I think I think right now, because we've already launched our courses, I think the solution that I have for you is that once we close on our summer program, we will be also opening it up as a weekend only courses for some of the courses. So I
Okay.
think I would request you to keep an eye out on our website, because we will be updating that as soon as our summer window closes on 14 June. So I think that's the solution I have for you.
Okay, that will be really great because, as some of the other students also had a query that how do they understand what they are going to learn in this course. And these are the similar questions that I hear from my son also, because they don't read or study any of these kind of subjects in school. And, so I really thought that enrolling for a course like this will be a great idea. But because of the dates and it clashes with their exams.
Sure, I completely understand that, and I have offered the best solution I have right now for you. But thanks for raising this concern. This is definitely feedback for us, and
Yes.
try to figure out alternatives. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Om Krishna, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. I know I'm in 12th grade and I've already applied to the uni. So my question isn't really specific to this course, but it is somewhat related. So I would like to ask about like the teaching. How do you teach international relations in university? Because I plan to study it. Is it like the is it any different from what you'd expect, or like there's some unique ways of learning and appreciating the subject more?
Thanks, Om, for that question. I think as a department, we are extremely diverse in terms of what we teach and how we teach, and we take a lot of pride in the kind of expanding the interdisciplinary boundaries of IR. So, of course, we have certain core courses. We do war and strategy, IR theory, international history, foreign policy analysis. And then we also teach students how to write. So there's a research methods course. But then like the interesting bit about IR at Ashoka is the kind of electives that you can take. So from the rise of populism in world politics, so you study Bolsonaro to like kind of Trump, rise of Trump, to like kind of Brexit and understanding Boris Johnson's like kind of stuff. So we do a lot of like kind of populism. We do a lot of stuff on gender and like kind of international relations. So understanding how do they like kind of play out. We do a region specific like kind of electives as well. So Latin America is, of course, one of the regions that one of our faculty focuses on, but a lot of South Asia as well. So we look at Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka in one of the courses. And then there's been like kind of new faculty that look at both Indian foreign policy, but also cybersecurity. So yeah, like we have a diverse range of electives to choose from. You have to do the core courses first. And then, of course, of course, Ambassador Shiv Shankar Menon is also part of the faculty. So he does a lot on like kind of diplomacy and understanding India's way in terms of like kind of thinking about foreign policy analysis. And that is quite useful. And how we teach, again, depends on each like kind of faculty. So of course, there are field trips to like kind of think about. So we go to war memorials to like kind of understand again, like the nature or the side of war that is ignored. But there's a lot of like kind of hands-on experience in terms of how faculty want the students to engage with the discipline of international relations. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Gautam. I hope you're able to unmute yourself. Gautam, I can see your hand raised. Are you able
Now
to
I got it. Now I
Okay.
got it.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Hi. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Professor Sharma, for some wonderful lecture. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you much. I have my question. My son is actually in grade 11. He's just passed and he's going on to grade 12. He's a student of economics and wants to pursue. And we were looking seriously at some of these universities in India. We live in Dubai, by the way, and he studies in Delhi Private School in Sharjah. My question to you, as well as Professor Sharma, is specifically, now, do you see some new courses emerging within international relationship, or the way the structure of the international relationship itself is right now organized, especially in wake of some of the new developments, or do you think that will still remain same? And the reason why I'm asking this question is now, unless and until international relationship it kind of remains flexible, and it kind of remains pliable to accommodate some of these more recent events in history which is actually shaping. My worry is students that might study this might again probably get caught in the theoretical stuff rather than the more active and more relevant stuff. Thank you.
Professor Nehru, would you like to take the question?
Yeah, thank you, Gautam, for that question. We try and kind of ensure a balance between both theory and practice. As somebody who loves to make theory accessible to students, I think the idea is that rather than them making these glib and like kind of easy connections with what is happening in world, we need to ground them in like kind of strong foundations of understanding why players are acting out in the way they are. And hopefully with the forces of globalization, other kinds of changes like you mentioned, so we do speak about technology and like kind of changes. So the idea is to still like kind of ground them very strongly in the basis of learning and like kind of developing new techniques of understanding the changes that are happening in the world around us. So yeah, like I would say a balance between the two. Like let's not like let go of understanding the concepts in terms of like analyzing what's happening in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Sharma. I think I completely agree with you. Theoretical concepts and underpinnings still would be extremely relevant, and you cannot just overlook them. But at the same time, I think, as you rightly said, bringing in those nuanced conversation into into the discourse will also definitely be important. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Gautam. Any other questions before we close for everyone? I can see everyone has the permission to unmute themselves. Everyone is able to access chat. So please feel free, if you don't know how to raise your hand, please feel free to unmute yourself. Please feel free to post any questions in chat that you have if we haven't been able to answer any of your questions.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Vansh, please go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, okay, all right. So I think I've joined a bit late, so apologies for that. I just wanted to inquire if there about the rigidity of courses at Ashoka, because like I am interested in both economics and IR. So is there a way that like they are taught cohesively, or is it very rigid and you have to pick between one of them before you start your undergraduate? So that's my concern.
Uh,
Aditi, do you want to answer that or should I take that?
yeah, I think Professor, you can take that because I think it'll give a better perspective of sort of the the actual experience at campus, I think.
Thank you. Thanks, Vansh, for that question. Again, like I'll have to check with the department manager about the exact numbers, but the highest number of students who do pursue like a kind of major minor combination, I think Avni spoke about the interdisciplinary history IR like kind of option, is actually econ and IR. And I understand like the sense that I get from like both the classroom and speaking to students is that IR gives them like some like kind of insight into like the geopolitical like application side of it, whereas econ is like kind of relevant for whatever like kind of path that you're choosing. So it's a very popular major minor combination at Ashoka. The other one being, of course, history IR, Pol IR. But a lot of students who do pursue major in econ do take up IR. The only like kind of caveat I want to add here is that economics at Ashoka is quite grueling. It's very intensive. And as a minor in IR, you have to do 6 courses and some of them could be intensive. So I think the way you plan and navigate your like kind of semesters at Ashoka is extremely important. And I'm sure that people do like kind of help. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And of course, we have a parent, I think, who's asking a question that how can they explain a grade 9 student about what is international relations or what is game theory in, sort of simple layman language, and also sort of, share and encourage some of the top career opportunities in that. And of course, I think Professor Sudipta, if you would like to answer for game theory first, and then we can go to IR.
Very good question because my daughter is in ninth grade. Okay, so it's very good. We often talk about this. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the way to think about understanding game theory is any situation where the outcome depends not just on what you do, but also on what the other person does. Whether it's a game like chess, or whether it's two political parties trying to win elections, the way we want to think about it is using tools from game theory. Now, of course, there are tools from other disciplines that can also be used, but the core analysis is game theory. So if you want to think about auctions, if you want to think about how Amazon chooses its pricing strategies, given that Flipkart may be choosing pricing strategies that are different, right? These are the kinds of things you can think about when you study game theory. So to me, the simplest way of understanding this is how to make decisions that are interactive. That's it. And careers, of course, I think I already mentioned, but as I said earlier, it's a skill, it's a way of thinking and analyzing problems where you learn to place yourself in the other person's shoes to understand how they might behave, and then therefore, what should you do, right? So that applies in a wide variety of disciplines, from everything from computer science to biology.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Ananya, your take on the question here about how to explain IR, I think, to a grade 9 kid. And I'm already smiling because, it's sometimes kids watch all of these like things happening in the world and they are just like, some of them are harsh and some of them are okay. So um, please go ahead.
Thanks. I'd say break down the word itself, no? International relations, right? And so we're going to break down all 3 components of that work for a 9th grader. What does inter mean? It means involving 2 parties, national. And so if you're thinking about states, we unpack states itself. I think Professor Sudipto said. So it's not just Trump making decisions, it's also Elon Musk making decisions. It's also various other forces that are influencing these decisions. You look at the Maori tribe in New Zealand, you think about both top and down like kind of forces that influence states to make certain kinds of decisions. And can we expand our idea of national beyond this monolithic black box of a state That's what international means. And relations could be anything. It could be panda diplomacy that China does in terms of giving these animals and like kind of conducting diplomacy, or like the ping pong diplomacy that happened in certain ways. Yeah. So relations, both in terms of positive and negative sense, that's what international relations means. And the focus, of course, of like mainstream, both media, but also theorization, is the negativity, right? The conflict and the tensions between two states. But it'll be important to like kind of highlight how through diplomacy and like kind of through negotiation, states also like engage with one another in certain ways. And who are these actors who engage with it? Career opportunities, I think I already mentioned this. So look at international organizations of various like kind of kinds. Like you can choose your specialization and then like kind of work with an organization. I spoke about risk analysis as an emerging field. And of course, media becomes important as well. Yeah. International law, media. Yeah. Like those are two things. Thank you.
Oh. So thank you so much. I think we are on time based
Can I
on
quickly just add? I love the two examples Ananya gave, the panda diplomacy and the ping pong diplomacy. Beautiful examples.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. So great. Thank you so much. We are on time, so I don't think we'll be taking any questions as such. I don't want to hold our faculty, but if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in chat with us, and of course, feel free to email us as well. It's the email is also given in chat. Um, so that we are able to answer those, for you. And I hope this was helpful. And of course, I do have a quick poll for our audience. Please help us sort of understand your experience and your interest as well. You will be able to see your poll or the poll on the screen. So I'll just give 2 minutes for everyone to answer. Please answer the poll. And there'll be two questions. You should be able to see two questions on the poll about your experience and your, of course, interest in terms of the courses that you see. And of course, while the poll is going on, we do have Nikhat who has posted a question for you, Professor Ananya, to talk about some job opportunities or I think career options in risk analysis related to international relations. You can also see the question on chat.
Sorry, yeah, I can read this. Thank you. Again, because this is, thank you, Nikat, for that question. Again, because maybe this is like something that is emerging, maybe like my generation and others don't know. I can only like kind of think of two companies that students have like kind of worked with. One is KPMG. I'm not sure if like, again, parents would be aware of. And the other one is Deloitte. And there's something called as data miner as well. A lot of students have been interning there as well. And so these are like kind of three concrete examples that I could think of where they do like kind of risk assessments and like kind of use both like kind of economic training, but also international relations training to like kind of build on these models of like kind of risk. Yeah. So if you particularly are interested, these three companies, students have already gone and like kind of interned and are currently like kind of working at. So maybe I could reach out to them and maybe the Horizons team could bring the students to like kind of speak about what risk analysis looks like. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just add, so basically as we move into more and more conflict, it becomes important for big businesses and governments and FIIs, financial institutions, to think about where to invest their money, what risk does a particular country pose, what's the possibility of conflict. And so this is a growing area because we are moving into more and more conflict. I mean, this may not necessarily be wars uh, that are fought with in the trenches and with boots on the ground, but almost certainly there is conflict. And so this large firms and international organizations and think tanks, a lot of them do this kind of country analysis, which is not necessarily just economics driven, but also politics driven. Right, Ananya?
No, absolutely. Thank you for like kind of explaining it so lucidly. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, professors. I think we'll close for questions for now. I hope all your questions have been answered. Thank you so much for the lovely and such detailed chat. I think it was very immersive for me as well. And thank you so much for taking out the time to guide our students and our parents on these topics for today. And thank you so much, parents and students, for joining in and being such a lovely audience to ask questions and to sort of understand and encourage us to share this information today. Thank you, my colleagues, for helping me with this session. I think if no questions, we'll be closing the session now. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Om Krishna has raised his hand. Please go ahead, Om Krishna. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about like after like let's say I pursue my master's also in international relations, how would I like try to get into like a policy research or think tank job? Like, is it through connections or like is there like a detailed process of how to like start working for the ORF, for example, or other think tanks?
Thanks, Om, for that question very quickly. Yeah, so most of these organizations actually do hire RAs. And so you will have to do like at least your graduation to like kind of apply for research assistantship in these like kind of positions. Also at Ashoka, because the faculty is associated with these organizations, so whether it's CESP, IDSA, IPCS, at least the Delhi-based like kind of think tanks. So you will get either higher recommendations from these faculty members, and whenever there's a call for like kind of opening with a particular like kind of member in the think tank, or like there's a larger call that these organizations take out, you might apply based on like kind of your research experience at Ashoka, but also the kind of courses you've done. You'll be eligible for those like kind of opportunities. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Unfortunately, we will be closing now. So please email your questions to us if you have any, and we'll be happy to direct them to our professors. Thank you so much, professors. Thank you everybody for joining in today.